your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. And today is Sunday, August 8th. You have tuned into episode 175 of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. Welcome, 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 welcome. Excuse me. So what I do here is I review films and I talk to and interview people above and below the line in the film industry. If this is your first time joining me, honey, give me a big old thumbs up to let me know you were here. Click that bell for notifications if you were on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. A sister's trying to get to 1,000 to make some money. So come on, subscribe to that channel. Why don't you? Come on now. I see you. All right, you clicked. Okay, good. So I usually start the show out by saying what my week was, and then I usually go on and get into the movies and things that I'm going to review for the week. So this particular week, I was fortunate enough to go to the Suicide Squad premiere. Warner Brothers invited me. There I am on the red carpet. I took my little brother with me. Of course, I had to take a picture next to Idris, honey, because, you know, it's Idris. What you gonna do? But saw the screening, had a good time at the party afterwards. And then, I'll talk about that in my review a little later on in the show. I told y'all last week that I was going to see Goonies or had seen Goonies, but I wanted to show you this picture. So it was the Street Food Cinema Fair, and it's in Calabasas, and it was sponsored by Baby Ruth. So of course I had to take a picture. That little van, you go inside and you take like those Polaroid pictures where it's 3 in a row. So I went in there and I took my picture, but I had to take a picture in front of it. It was just too cute. And of course, this is the last day of the Bentonville Film Festival. Oh, I had such a great, great, great time moderating all the panels. If you haven't hopped over there to listen to some of the panels or see some of the films, please do yourselves a favor and get on over there and check them out. And I'm sure they'll put some of the stuff that I moderated up on their YouTube website or their channel. So that's what I did for the week. It was very short and sweet. Very, very short and sweet. So let's get right into this first interview. Last week, I did an interview with 3 of the filmmakers from Short Circuit, which is a Disney Plus short film TV series in which they highlight and showcase new up-and-coming filmmakers that do shorts. They're usually somebody that works at Walt Disney Studios already, and someone who has either worked on a feature film like Frozen or Wreck-It Ralph 2 or The Incredibles or something like that, and now they're given the chance to do their own thing. So this time I sat down and I talked to Kim, Hazel, and Riannon. So take a look and listen to this interview with Kim and Riannon. Dinosaur Barbarian, girl. Oh my goodness. That had me hollering out loud, only because who has not watched a cartoon and walked away from it with those songs in their head? And then and you were like, in your intro, you were like, let's see if this song sticks in your head like it's stuck in mine. Yeah, so that happened.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. So talk to me, other than the impetus to bring the cartoon to life. And let me just note that I love that you made him smelly.
Yeah.
I love that my dude was smelly, and that we never see that in a cartoon theme song.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration other than the cartoon theme songs to bring this into a short?
I came up with this idea with the Short Circuit program in mind specifically, which is we have some framework to work within in terms of like time duration. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I wanted to make a lighthearted, silly story, but that I also wanted it to have a little bit of a message to it and not just be, I don't know what the right word is. I wanted it to have a little bit of a message to it. And so the idea for this short was actually born, I was making a joke at lunch at work about like, oh, there could be a short about a cartoon hero learning work-life balance, because that's something you never see. And it actually was Riannon, she's actually over here, who encouraged me to submit, because I came up with the idea actually a while before I even submitted it. And she was the one that was like, you really should submit it. You need to submit this idea. And finally I was like, okay. And now here we are.
I think both of your ideas were brilliant ideas because they speak to children in two very different ways. They speak to the fun side that children like to, grab onto by watching Saturday morning cartoons. And they speak to the scary side when the sun goes down and the cartoons are over and they have to go to bed at night in a dark room. So I love the dichotomy and the differences between the two. What was the most fascinating day that you had in the process of getting this produced by Disney? Because Disney is one of the premier animation studios in the world, not just in America, but in the world. And here you are having your dreams come true. So what was that one day that when you walk away from this, you'll be like, oh, I'll remember this forever? Kim?
Honestly, for me, probably when we went to sound mixing, which was the first time seeing it big on the theater screen for sound mixing. And also attached to this was finding the perfect sound for the dinosaur's voice was like such an adventure to figure out exactly. And it's one of those things where when it's not quite right, and then when you finally get the right one, you're like, that's it. So being in that sound mixing booth, hearing everything with they give it the full Dolby bells and with everything, it's beautiful, lush sound filling your ears. That was the most surreal because that was the most outside my normal work experience where, Riannon and I are both CG character animators at Disney. There's a lot, even when directing, we're exposed to a lot of the same things that we would be as animators. I mean, a lot more and a lot deeper, but a lot of the same things. But sound mixing was the one that was the most different and so much fun and amazing.
I can tell your eyes lighting up about it. Is that the same for you, Riannon?
Yes. Songs to Sing in the Dark is such a percussive short. And I think where it really came home was I was doing a cruise screening, and we have different kind of viewing rooms throughout the studio. And we all piled into this one that holds maybe 40 people. So it's mid-size. And I played it once, kind of mid-volume, and people were pumped up because it's the kind of short that gets you pumped, kind of like Kim's short. But then everyone's like, crank it all the way up. And so I turned the volume to max, and the walls were shaking. It was so loud. And people were almost yelling through the whole thing. It was like being at a rock concert. It was bizarre.
Not a rock concert. You're like, why are people going what's happening right now?
There's a mosh pit for Songs to Sing in the Dark happening. Yeah.
And for both of you, growing up, what was your favorite cartoon to watch?
Favorite cartoon to watch? Well, I guess this kind of connects to Dinosaur River in a little bit, but my absolute favorite cartoon was Disney's Gargoyles, which was part of Disney Afternoon. I loved that show so much. I loved it. Could not get enough.
I actually went through a phase where I watched Beauty and the Beast every day for a month. I would literally wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I'd watch it all the way through and then go to school. And then I'd do it again the next day and the next day and the next day for a full month. I was obsessed with The Lion King when it came out. I loved the Ghibli films when they came out. I don't know. I've always kind of gravitated towards films, not so much television.
That's okay. But at least you gravitated towards something. I love that you watch Beauty and the Beast every day. That is pure comedy.
Yeah.
I had a cousin that watched The Little Mermaid, and she would sit right. She had the DVD, not the DVD, the VHS. Mm-hmm. And she would put it in and she would sit right up on top of the TV and sing Part of This World. She would just rewind it to that part and just sing Part of This World over and over and over and over again. It used to make me holler out loud. And she would be like, part of this world. She would just be living her best life. But anyway, that's my time, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts with us and for talking to me about it. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed both of them so very much.
Thank you, Carla. It was great chatting with you.
So thanks again, Kim and Riannon. Let me tell y'all, these shorts that I have told y'all about that are on the Short Circuit series on Disney Plus, they are so good. I'm like, how do they pack all of that into a short movie. It should be a feature film, but Kim and Riannon's shorts are The Dinosaur Barbarian is Kim's, and Songs to Sing in the Dark is Riannon's. So please check them out, and when you pop over to Disney Plus. All right, so there's this documentary that is streaming. Well, not streaming. It's in theaters right now. It's called Val. It will be streaming. Well, it is streaming on Amazon Prime Video as of August 6th. Y'all know who Val Kilmer is. He was Batman. He was in Top Gun. He had a play that he wrote centered around Mark Twain. And in the play, he turned it into a movie. While he was doing that movie, while he was doing the play, he had gone back out on the road and was doing the play. While he was out doing the play, he had some hoarseness, some funky stuff going on with his throat, and discovered that after a few doctor's visits and whatnot, that he had a very advanced stage of throat cancer. So he now speaks through a hole in his throat. And when I watched this, I wasn't sad, but I was immensely inspired. Immensely inspired. It is directed by Ting and Leo Scott, and Val's son Jack does the voiceover for it. But I was immensely inspired because as an actor, you use your voice and your body in so many different ways. It is an actor's nightmare to not be able to talk. He is living an actor's nightmare, but he has somehow found a way to go beyond that. And Val Kilmer, who is a Juilliard graduate, some of his classmates were like Kelly McGillis, who was in Top Gun with him, Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, Anthony Edwards, who was on ER. He went to school with all these people, and they were all at the beginning of their career. So it was kind of cool to see all this footage that he had been running around shooting. They had all these people where they looked like they were 12. It was hilarious, but it was really a lot of fun to watch. And he's Juilliard trained. He's from Chatsworth, California, which he refers to as hell. And I can understand that because it's in the San Fernando Valley, where it's hot as hell right now. Like me talking to y'all with these lights on me, it's a situation. Trust and believe. But I was really inspired by the fact that he documented his whole entire life. So when this particular situation was thrust upon him, he had everything documented, and it was real easy to just go back and figure out how to string it together. And Ting and Leo did that beautifully. Again, it is called Val. His son is voicing it. His daughter Mercedes and his son Jack are in it. We see why his marriage fell apart, how he fell in love with his wife. Val Kilmer seems to be a really lovely person. And it was funny because at the height of his career, there were all kinds of allegations about him being intense and a very complicated individual. He was called spoiled. He was called immature. He was called a perfectionist, obsessed with detail. There's some footage from Dr. Moreau, the Marlon Brando film that he was in. I think it was Marlon Brando's last movie. That footage is bananas. And his daughter alludes a little bit about that in the interview that I do with her. But I feel like this is an actor's blueprint film for any actor that is facing adversity, and to learn how to not feel sorry for yourself, but find a way to still be creative and still be an artist. That's all I have to say about Val, but it's one of my favorite documentaries I've seen this year for obvious reasons. So having said that, we're going to get into these interviews that I did with Jack and Mercedes and Ting and Leo. First up is Jack Kilmer and Mercedes Kilmer. Take a look and a listen. I watched this documentary and it warmed my heart so much because in addition to being a film critic, I'm also an actor. And what this did for me was it feels like it's going to be a playbook for actors to not be afraid to hide when they have an illness or a disability that may or may not prevent them from being judged or have that fear of being blackballed in the industry. Do you guys think that that was one of the goals of getting this documentary, Val, done?
Yes. I mean, I'm really glad you brought that up, Carla, because, we've been talking all day about how the media is changing, and hopefully now, we're seeing the response we've always wanted, which is just that, people have compassion for artists and that they can have their voice be heard,
I think, I'm not sure if that was explicitly discussed as a goal, but that's been kind of the goal of my dad's entire really is like to show what, I guess, he's always been concerned with the truth and like getting at the truth, but also like kind of elevating it into some kind of art, which he's definitely done with his illness. And I think he's very inspirational because he's shown how an actor can continue to work, not in spite of disability, but to use that experience to actually work through, and I think it's like the almost like greatest, he definitely says like that it's been, the greatest like challenge as an artist, which he thrives on challenge, as you see from the movie, is to kind of grapple with this illness and see like, okay, what are the givens of this, and I think he's very inspirational. He doesn't really like talk about like being like talk about his disability like in those terms, but it definitely is very inspiring.
What's the one thing that you learned about your dad in shooting this that you didn't know before? Was there one thing that you discovered about your dad that you like, oh, Daddy, I didn't know that?
I didn't know that he bought into the 80s fashion as much as he did. He's always been really stylish to me. And now I got to see all this footage of him in the 90s wearing these crazy pants. They don't fit right. He's got the Oakley glasses on, and it's all over the place,
There wasn't like, I know him so well, but he's a very open person. So there were things like my parents' wedding footage that I hadn't seen video of, and behind the scenes of Top Gun, the Island of Dr. Moreau footage is shocking. There was like some things that I had always wanted to see that I got to see through the course of this project.
Cool. Well, you guys are lovely. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I appreciate you, and good luck with the doc. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too. I kind of love how his son clowned his fashions. He was like, his stuff was all over the place. That made me laugh out loud. It was pretty funny. His kids are really lovely. All right. So here we go with the directors of Val, Miss Ting Poo and Mr. Leo Scott. Hi, Ting and Leo. How you doing? Yay!
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And let me just say that Val was the best Ting ever. Had to do it. You can't have a name like Ting and me not do a pun. Had to do it. I want to know how you guys, I know you guys have collaborated before, but what made you collaborate specifically for this particular doc?
Well, I'd been working with Val for many years before we started this life story of Val's. I helped him digitize this hundreds and hundreds of hours of material in my garage many years ago when we were working on his Mark Twain project. Ting actually came to me because she'd seen me working seen some of this material in my garage, and she was looking for a big meaty project, and she kind of inspired this idea of us going to Val and suggesting this life story.
And Leo and I had worked together previously, so, and really, like, when you find somebody you enjoy working with, it's you want to just do more things with them, and so it was exciting to have the prospect of working on something big together.
I read something about you wanting to find structure to serve the story in the best way possible, Ting. what kind of structure was it that you were able to find in stringing Val Kilmer's story together? Because he has so much of a huge, rich, varied career that it's a lot to choose from. And you kind of have to, pick and choose which road you're going to go down and which road you're kind of going to leave to a dead end. So if you both could weigh in on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So what we ended up with was pretty much two timelines, like one told from the past and then him in present day. And the past timeline is told chronologically. And what's good about that is it allows you to dip in and out of today and not feel lost. But at the same time, because it's rooted in that chronological fashion, you can be a little bit more expressive, a little bit more impressionistic with the way that you edit. And we really wanted the film to kind of reflect not just Val's personality, but like his scrapbook making and his art. And so it's a cinematic scrapbook in a way, because we're able to dip in and out of these moments and juxtapose different times together, and even just different actions together, like Jack playing the guitar, going back and forth, or as an adult and a child, and you can get a lot more impressionistic with it when you're rooted in that kind of chronology.
You said that you'd known Val for quite some time, and Ting, you met him through the process of this collaboration. But what's the one thing for both of you that you didn't know about him that you learned in the course of doing this documentary? There had to have been something that you were like, oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Well, I suppose when I first met him nearly a decade ago, I'd grown up on his movies, born in the 70s, watched all the 80s and 90s movies. So to me, meeting him, I had no idea what he was going to be like. And I had no idea what an artist he is and what an artist he's always been and remains. And very prolific, very hardworking, all the characters he plays, and, the amount of work he puts into them so that when he turns up on set, he's already that person. It's quite remarkable what a hard worker he is. So yeah, I just learned what an artist he was, I suppose.
Yeah, I would agree. But also I had no idea how funny he would be in real life. I mean, he's hysterical and so playful and it's just like a laugh a minute when you're in the room with him. And also just a loving person off the bat and really generous with his friendship. He really just welcomed me into his fold, and I'm just really grateful for that.
It was beautifully done. And I think it's going to be like a cinematic blueprint for actors to not be fearful to share their diagnosis for fear of not being able to get work in the future. And that's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And hopefully I'll see you soon. The life you live is the story you tell. That is the documentary message behind Val. Check it out on Amazon Prime Video right now. All right. And so now we're going to talk a little Suicide Squad. I'm not going to lie. I didn't see the first Suicide Squad. I could have cared less if I saw the second Suicide Squad. But since the studio invited me to see it, unlike the first time, when the first one came around, they invited me to see it, I thought I'd go ahead and I'd check it out. So then after I saw the second one, I'm like, let me come back home and check out the first one, because I was thoroughly confused when I saw the second one, as oftentimes happens when you catch a film franchise and you haven't seen it from the beginning. So having said that, I came back home and I watched the first one with Will Smith. That one resonated with me a little bit better because at least I could kind of figure out storyline wise what was going on. This one that's written and directed by James Gunn. I know the comic book fans are going to come for me when I say this, and I am really sorry, but I didn't get it. I did not get it. I was like, this is grotesquely violent. Like, it was just unnecessary violence for no reason at some point. Like, at first it was like, okay, but then, it just got to the point where it was ridiculous. I understand now that is part of this franchise. That is part of what makes this particular film work, but it didn't work for me in that respect. What I did love about the Suicide Squad, the one thing I loved wholeheartedly, 1000% without hesitation, was Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She is freaking hilarious and just quirky and crazy as hell. And I was there for all of her. I was also there for the fact that any woman that was in it was held up to be strong and fierce and having her own mind and her own way of thinking. Viola Davis is the best villain ever. I need to see Viola Davis play some more villainous roles because she was the bomb.com. Storm Reed has a fiercely emotional scene with Idris Elba, who plays her father, where they are screaming in each other's face. And when I tell you, it made me uncomfortable that I was watching it. That's how good it was, though. I was uncomfortable watching it, and I should have been uncomfortable watching it. It speaks volumes to what their talent is like. And I also love this one young lady who was like, for lack of a better way to say it, I just call her the Queen of the Rats. Daniela Melchior is her cinematic debut. And she had just the right amount of quirkiness, vulnerability, and realism that made me believe her every time she showed up on the screen. So I was there for all of the women and their roles. There were a lot of stars in this film. Some of them you will hear them. Some of them they're there for 2 seconds and then they gone. But all in all, the comic book fans of the Suicide Squad will love this. Fans of the franchise will love it. I love the women. I love what they did with the women, and that's about it. And I said it. All right. So Resort to Love is streaming on Netflix. I'm a little late with this review, but I had to talk about it because it just made me all warm and fuzzy inside and made me laugh out loud. So Resort to Love is written by Steven Shushida, and it stars Christiana Milian, Jay Farrell, and Cinqua Walls. Look at Cinqua Walls, baby, them abs. When he took off that shirt and showed that physique right there, I'm like, okay, if he don't say another word, I'm good. Which is so shallow and wrong. But I promise you, I'm not the only person that has seen that film and had those thoughts. I promise you that I'm not. But anyway, this film, Resort to Love, is kind of like My Best Friend's Wedding, but on an island and with Black people. That's the best way to describe it. If you liked My Best Friend's Wedding with Julia Roberts, then you are going to like Resort to Love. It's corny. It's a corny rom-com. It is. It's corny down. But it deals with this young lady who is right on the verge of getting her break as a singer when some shenanigans happen, and her social media savvy friend gets her this gig as a wedding singer at a resort on this gorgeous, gorgeous island where she meets Caleb, who's played by Cinqua Walls. And he ends up being the brother of the person that she was supposed to marry, played by Jay Farrell, and his name is Jason, and her name is Erica. So it's like this little love triangle happening on this island. It's not anything that you haven't seen before, but like I said, it's with Black people. So I was there for that. So just to recap what I talked about this week, I want you guys to check out Val, which is on Amazon Prime Video. It's in theaters and streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Short Circuit, which is streaming on Disney Plus. The Suicide Squad, which is in theaters and streaming on HBO Max. Check them all out. But hold up, wait a minute, baby. I got a whole bunch of stuff for you next week. Now, I said I was going to do an Aretha retrospective this week, but this is why I didn't do it. I got a gig working for IGN, so I will be reviewing Respect for IGN. So I cannot review it here. I can talk about it and I can show some interviews and stuff, but I can't review it here for legal reasons. So, but I will have an interview, I think, coming up with the director, Liesl Tommy. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that. That's supposed to go down. And if I do, then I'll have that for you next week. I will be talking about Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. Y'all gamers are going to love this movie. I love this movie so much. The Protege I'll be talking about. Paw Patrol, Reminisce with Hugh Jackman, The Night House, and Annette. All of those things I will be talking about. Annette, Marion Cotillard, and Adam Driver. Woo, baby. It's a lot to unpack there. I won't even try to give you a heads up on that one because it's crazy as hell. It really is. But you're going to love it. Anyway, That does it for this episode 175 of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. Again, if this is your first time joining me, baby, give me them thumbs up. Click that thumbs up and let a sister know you was here. Click that bell for notifications and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for all of those people that come and watch and support. And I love y'all. And my peeps that are in the chat room, I know they there. Even though this is pre-taped, I know that Brandon's there. I know Michael B's there. I know Kenneth is there. I know that those three people, if ain't nobody else watching this, those three people are watching this. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I will have Brandon's pictures up of Paw Patrol because he always sends me some wonderful drawings and things. So I'll put those up when I talk about Paw Patrol next week. But until then, love, peace, and hair grease. And I'll see you on the flip side. Bye.